Up next, we're finishing one of the wildest Volkswagen Baywindow camper vans to ever hit the UK show scene, with suicide doors, fully de-seamed, big engine, air suspension. It's got it all. So if you've been to the Volkswagen show scene or even the modified car scene for the last 10 years, you may well have seen this van before when it was dark red. We built this probably 12 years ago, dark candy red, house of colour paint. It did very, very well at the car shows. White leather interior, those wheels, suicide doors, all the rest of it. It had everything, it was mental. We did a lot of work to this back in the day. You know, we restored this virtually from a shell. It was restored by another company years ago, and the work wasn't the best, if I'm honest, and you could see daylight through panels. The gaps were terrible, so we had one option: either redo it all or de-seam the whole van, and it spiraled from there. And this is when we created this thing. Everything is de-seamed. Every single seam on this van was welded up. We've made a custom rear engine lid, which literally flips up. Suicide doors, got rid of all the door handles. Everything's on solenoids now. It was on hydraulics, but the things with the hydraulics, it was very, very quick reacting. Didn't drive very nice. And so this is one of the reasons why it came to us, to change all that out and change the hydraulics out for air suspension, just so it's way more usable. It's also coming to us for a lot of work on the engine as well. We changed that to a Porsche fan shroud style anyway. We just took a stack of fitting. That also included redoing all the breather pipes, breather tanks, upgrading the fuel pumps, which also meant re-welding bigger fittings onto the fuel tank, tidying up the engine bay as well. So it never used to have an engine or fuel tank cover at the back. We're putting one in now, hiding all the coils, doing a lot of these jobs that, you know, weren't done before, you know, making it better, improving everything. It's having a full different interior. That's going to get done elsewhere after we've finished with it. The obvious colour change. Now, this was done 7 years ago by us, because when it was candy, it had been chipped a few times at the back. One of those times was at a show, someone was messing with it and chipped the paint at the back. We'd repainted it and blown the paint in already about 3 times, and it was a point where we either strip it back and redo it in candy or we colour change it. And Simon, the owner, decided to colour change it, probably, like I say, about 7 years ago now. Then he was going to rebuild it himself back at home, but it's still in the same state now. So he's asked us to actually finish it off because he's too busy. So yeah, it's been here for a while now. It's a lot of work, changing all the suspension up, putting new floors in it. It's had a few chips and a few dings along the way, just because it's been sat around for so long. So there's a bit of paint work to do on it. There's a lot of work to do to actually finish it up. But it's getting there, and it's looking really, really cool. And it's going even lower than it ever went before. So yeah, check this out. There's a lot to do yet to it. There's gonna be a few videos, but this is gonna be one really, really cool, interesting car once it's finished. So Ada's been working hard on the back end of Robbie. So because this is custom, we've got more work to do with fitting the rear suspension on this, because it's already been C-notched on the chassis a long time ago when it had the hydraulics. So that's all been done, and we've got to work around that. Unfortunately, there's been extra strengthening plates being added, which is making it awkward for us to fit this new line bug air suspension because they shouldn't be there. Also, we had strengthening bars on the back there, which have been cut out. They're just in the way. So all that's had to be done first before we can even get trial fitting the back suspension. We've got the bottom bag mounts on. They just bolt on. Everything should bolt on. Unfortunately, when we get to this bit, everything bolts on there, but these plates are in the way, which has meant that he's had to grind off a slice of metal off there just so they can fit. Now, we found another problem since, in that there's more metal in the way, basically. So I think part of the bracket, so that it should all be bolt on, I think we're gonna have to weld some of it on, which isn't that much of a big deal. We can do it. If this section here, this section right there should have a little bracket. None of that should be there. It should just be a chassis rail running across there, and it should literally hook on, bolt on, job done, real simple. Because we've got all that there and other problems, we can't do that. Nothing's ever simple with custom. So I think what we're going to end up doing is making sure everything's in the right place, cross-fitting as much of it as we can, bolting it all back together, making sure it works, and then welding this section of the bracket to the chassis, which, to be fair, it's no big deal. It's just more work than we thought we were going to have to do. So that's the back end. That's going to come together pretty quick now. Front end is really straightforward. It really is. We changed the front beam out, and now this one, you can got all these extra holes here for caster angle. So I've had to play about with that, see what the norm is. It's not far off anyway. We've got these arms in there, so you don't run torsion bars. Obviously on air suspension, you run these special arms, so you've got independent front suspension. That's gone in. Old one is on the floor. You have air shocks on the front, so all that is going to go together pretty quick. But if you look down there, there's loads of little bits, mustard, goldy coloured. That all needs repowder coating or painting. Obviously, if you've got bearings and seals in there, which we don't want to split, we're going to end up painting those. We might end up painting all of it, to be fair. So once all that's prepped and painted, it's a case of just bolting it all back together again with the new air shocks. And the front end's going to work. Then we've got all the brakes and everything else after that. But air suspension wise, front end is pretty much all bolting. Back should be bolting, but it looks like we're going to do some welding pretty soon. But yeah, it's come together pretty quick. So now all the old suspension has been removed. It's time to split everything down into component form and start painting it. Now we could have powder coated a lot of this, but some of it would still need to be painted. So we decided to do it all in a satin black 2-pack paint, and we didn't want to ruin the ball joints and the bearings by pushing them out needlessly. So everything was masked, prepped, painted, unmasked, and ready to bolt back on the van. Now first up, we're going to start with the front. Once everything's prepped and painted, everything gets greased up as brand new parts do. All the bolts, everything is replaced with new. This is a brand new install. So once everything's greased up, everything gets put together to get all that front end ready for the air suspension. So the ball joints on this are long travel ball joints, and you can even see there on the chassis it's been C-notched from the past when it had the hydraulics. Even the back has been C-notched as well, which you can see later on. This is all for the extra travel because this thing sits on the floor. So before we get into the back suspension and the engine conversion and the brakes and everything else, it's time to replace one of the cargo floor side panels. Now the reason we're doing this is because there was a big hole cut out of it for the spring box for the hydraulics, which we didn't need anymore. Now unfortunately, the profile on the replacement floor panels is way different to the original. So the only way to do this nicely was to replace one complete floor half. You wouldn't normally do this in a painted finished van, of course, but we had no option. So just gotta be as careful as we possibly can be. Mask all the windows up, make sure sparks don't hit anything that they shouldn't do. Be careful. So to do this, we've prepped it all. We took off all the sound deadening, the stone chip where we needed it, and the sealer from the underside, and cut the majority out with the plasma cutter. Now this is one of the best tools we own. It's brilliant, cuts it out in seconds. But what we're going to do is cut the majority out. Then the bits where all the spot welds are and the plug welds, we're going to have to grind those back, drill them out where we can, chisel them off until we've got all that floor removed. Once we've done that, grind everything back to fresh steel, zinc prime it or copper prime it, weld through primer. Now once everything's prepped and primed and ready for the new floor panel, the new floor panel is put in and prepped. We're going to plug weld this in, grind all those plug welds down, and then get it ready for sealer and stone chip and get this looking perfect like it was never even done. Now the underneath of Robbie has been hammerited as well to give it a gloss paint look underneath, which is just easier to clean. So rather than just doing that one side, we've actually had to do virtually the whole of the underside to make it all look perfect and neat and brand new again. So now we're on to the rear end. Now what we're going to do, because there's a lot going on with this rear end and a lot of custom work going on, first thing to do is a dry build. Now with the dry build, it's basically the first mock-up of all the parts to see that we've got clearance for everything and make sure we've got space for all the extra parts that we're going to be fitting onto this bus. Now straight away, first mock-up, we could see that this van was not going to be very low at all, and then we were missing the horseshoe plates. These got ordered, and these lower the van by an extra 3.5 inches to eventually get this van sitting on the floor. Now to do this, we've also got to drill the spring plates out for the handbrake cables, which are now going to sit a lot higher than they should do as standard. Then we get on to fitting all the rest of it.
So first bracket goes on. Bolts on existing engine frame. Sorry, engine frame. That's it, right, hold on.
Does that fit like show in between the two?
What I can do, I can undo these bolts here and just wiggle that out of the way.
Yeah.
So just hold that. That's not going nowhere now. Now we're in. Now we're in.
Cook it on gas.
Took it on diesel now. So the 2 bolts that hold the bag in place underneath here. Clamps on there, clamps over the axle. That's nice. So the airbag bolts on to the framework, airbags on there, bolts on to existing rear suspension arm. It hooks over the rear axle beam. Then we have a horseshoe bracket, which just bolts the two together. Slides over the axle. There's a fixing hole at the bottom here. Washer on there. And the last bolt for the air right at the back. So the kit is actually designed to fit around all the suspension parts. It's a bit awkward, but theoretically now, just need to bolt it all nice and tight. Fix the airbag, and that is your air ride in. Do the same, the other side. Then we got a cradle that strengthens it all up underneath. What we're going to do, brake pipe from there, across there, down there and into there. Make a little template, goes into there. So that will be our basic brake pipe. From there, we transfer this to brake pipe. Then we got a little special tool which gives us a straight pipe. From there, transfer this. So we make a mark, fold it across, make a second mark, bend them again, make a second mark, and there. I always do a little bit extra. So now we have our marks. One of these onto there, of course, it falls off. So what we have is some genius tool. So you choose your end that you want. I'm going for the slightly cup flared one. Slide your pipe in the centre. You just get right to the edge of the block. Tighten it down. Then inside there, the special flaring tool. So your screws in on there like so. Trusty spanner. A bit of pressure. Once it's released, and we should have. There we go. Now got our end, and the end doesn't come off. And by the time you screw it into the brake pipe, you can press these. Get up now, get your leaks. So now transfer this into there. Make a mark. We've got pipe bending tool. Simply clamp it onto the pipe, bend it round, take it off. It doesn't squash the pipe, it's a perfect bend. So with that, I'll just roughly check the right length I need. So make the mark again. There. Want another 45 degree. Bend them down. So there's your rough template. So I'll cut off my excess pipe that I don't need. Another little special tool. You wind it out, slide it over the brake pipe, mark to where you want it, and simply tighten it up. Twist, twist, twist. Tighten as you go when it comes off. And it simply fits in the end of the brake pipe. Twist it round, cleans all the burr. And before you make the next flare, don't forget to put your end on. You have to remake the pipe otherwise afterwards.
What's the difference between like that pipe and the aluminium pipe?
I think the aluminium you can do, like, it's called hard line, which is like, you know, it's just, but this is more, copper's more pliable.
Yeah.
You can, like, if you wanted to, you can bend it with your fingers. As aluminium, it's a lot tougher.
So now the rear suspension was all mocked up, it's time to put the gearbox in. Now this is a reconditioned, brand new gearbox. This is standard stuff and we knew it was going to fit. Now that was the easy bit. Now it comes to prepping the engine with the new Bernie Bergman Porsche style fan housing. Now this was never going to fit perfectly. We knew it wasn't, it's fiberglass. And with all fiberglass panels or body kits, they never fit out the box. Now it was a good fit, but we're looking for as close to perfection as we can find. Plus we need clearance for everything and making sure once everything's painted, nothing's gonna rub and scratch. Now this rear engine tin that has to be cut around the turbo and it's already been modified. So this needed a lot of careful measuring, a lot of careful cutting, and this was just the start of it. Of course, we can do what we can on the bench, but then we know we're gonna have more modifications to do once the engine goes in.
Right, back to our positions.
That's
Boy,
it.
look at that.
Go on.
Beautiful.
Hold it, relax, breathe. Hold on, let me get a nut. Right, hold on a second.
I mean, you've got the contents of that wiring loom behind this plastic, which is pushing them.
Yeah, and there's a bolt that's been cut.
Oh, is that going on? Do we need a bit of a...
I need like a 17 ratchet.
Right, we've got a large gap. We need.
Hold on,
Can we push the engine to the gearbox, please?
Hold on, can you see that thread in there?
Still there. Oh, the back of the engine needs to be lifted up a bit. Go on.
I've got this. Oh, it's tight. Ow. Where's the ratchet?
Well, that's perfect.
It's just going to be literally 45 and we'll just figure it out. Right, so the problem we got with this is that the way this exhaust was designed is the wastegate sits completely in the way of a standard brace bar, and the brace bar, it's not even standard anymore because we had to put a drop in it because the standard brace bar wouldn't even fit at all. It's like the engine wasn't even designed for this fan, really. So now the next thing to modify is the wastegate because that's going to hit that. So what we're going to have to do is chop this little piece off there, which is the mount, put a little 45 on it so it just kicks it out the way. Only slightly, but it's just going to kick it out the way. And then we're going to have to redo the exhaust as well. So it just points down at the floor, but you can, when this drops, the sump is about that far off the floor. So this exhaust is going to be absolutely tiny. It's like the smallest little 90 just sticking out as well. So first thing to do is take the turbo off, chop that end off. We've got some pipes here, which we can use, or this one here, which is a 90. We'll chop that down so it's about a 45. use the smallest piece of that just to angle it. Then we've got enough left for the exhaust as well. So it's a small modification, but it's still hours worth of work. Because if this one's wound up, I mean, they look really similar, to be honest with you, but where the bottom of that plate is almost level with the top of that piece, this one is probably at least 10 mil lower. So if you raise this one up 10 mil,
Yeah, it's
there's a lot more than this is letting on. But again, this side is higher than this side. So again, that'll have an effect. So we just had the van on the floor, and this axle will clear the C-notch, which was done years ago. And now seems like it's gonna sit a lot lower than it did when it had the hydraulics on it. But this side, the axle is gonna hit the C-notch. And we're not sure why. It may well be a problem, like 10 mil difference in where the C-notch was done by another company probably 10 years ago. So what we're gonna do now is get a block of wood underneath here with a jack it up and see clearly now, because it's up in the air, how much clearance we've got between the chassis and the drive shaft. And see how high we can go as well before the drive shaft actually hits the framework for the air suspension, because that's gonna be our limiting factor, and that's gonna be, you can't use it as your bump stop, but that literally is as high as it can possibly go, or as low as it can go. This side though, like I say, it's the C-notch. It looks like we need a bit more clearance, so we're gonna jack it up, see where it's hitting, see why it's hitting, where it's hitting. I could probably have to do some clearance work, i.e. cutting and shutting and welding to make it the same as that side, and then take it up as high as it can go, and then make a bump stop. So we don't want metal on metal at all. So you're gonna have to make a rubber bump stop so it hits the bump stop before it hits the floor. Otherwise, you're gonna start crushing exhaust. And that's that.
Grab it.
You're just about. Come on, go a bit more so it's actually touching. Well, that is touching now, so. Although the van could theoretically go lower, but that's your touching point, so.
That one clears more than that side.
We're gonna have to make a bump stop so that hits a bump stop when it's about there.
Yeah.
So that's like, but of course, whatever bump stop we use is gonna be rubber, and that's gonna compress as well.
So you need a hard rubber.
Yeah, so we want it a little bit less than, so a bit more of a gap than that, and then it'll compress
So I have it there.
to where we have it.
It'll squish.
Yeah.
Now do put the block wood this side. Oh. Yeah, just have to grind this corner.
Close, isn't it?
It's mega close, isn't it?
It's not a million, it's just a few mil off what the other side is, but it is touching, so.
Yeah.
And then it's the same as the other side on that, so. But that could compress that a little bit more. I mean, it's virtually all the way down, but it could compress that a little bit more if it was notched on them. That's as low as it needs to go.
Yeah.
So, like I say, we're gonna have to figure out how to make a bump stop when it gets to about there.
What is that bump stop onto?
You got the standard plate, which is there, which we could go on to, the standard bump stop.
But it's not it, because like you have the chassis C-notched. It's gonna have to be a tall rubber.
Yeah, they are a standard, they are really tall. But as standard, it has like a little ball, and it just pushes onto the ball, which we're not gonna be able to get that. So I'll see. What we're gonna have to do is that plate's perfect for it, but we need another one of them plates that's missing off the other side. And then we'll probably have to get a universal bump stop, make a bracket, just weld it to the chassis, and then that's just that, isn't it?
So
There's plenty of room.
That just needs a bit of a grind, I reckon, where the drive shaft goes. It's just there.
Yeah.
It's just there. I'm not saying put like the metal tube leaf around it or the metal pin.
It's just too close.
See you spin
It is
wheel.
touching. Yeah, thingy. But yeah, it's just gonna rub. Even if it took an angle, we could do them both, just so we got that little bit more clearance on that side.
Yeah.
We'd actually just cut that, put it at an angle.
Back up.
There's literally that end square there.
It's that end square.
Where the new bracket is, that's fine. It's just
like
this side of it.
there. Yeah. See what's a bit off there. Like an angle like that, doesn't it?
I'll angle it towards us.
Yeah, like this way down.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that instead.
But yeah, we just do that both sides. Wheel off. You can still jack it up as high as we can get it.
Yeah,
you can see
yeah.
without the wheel on, you can just get to everything right there.
Yeah.
That's actually quite easy.
Grinder, yeah. Easy fix.
The turbo on, do we, to gather that location?
Nice. Are you filming now? Cool. All right, let's try and figure out where this is going to go.
Is it clash? It's not clashing on the inside, is it? Well, they don't mind.
It is way too long, isn't it? But we can chop off whatever we want.
Knowing my luck, if I cut any more off it, it would have been, you've done it too short.
Yeah. Because we want it really short because it will affect the way it works. So you want it short, but
Just a nice
we need the little
gap. Could you do the outlet pipe like parallel with the manifold?
It needs a 90. It needs to point at the floor eventually. But it needs to look cool at the same time.
We got some.
The trouble is like that, you know, when it's dumped on the floor, we're gonna have to stop it with bump stops. But I mean, that is the exhaust, actually, the lowest part of the vehicle. So we'll have to stop it. So the exhaust could be like that low maximum. That is clearing everything, don't you?
Oh, it's just.
And at least when you look from the side as well, if you ever look, you'll be able to see it. But actually, it does hang down quite low there. Jeez.
I don't
That's
think.
probably just fractionally.
I don't think you're going to be able to tuck it away.
It's not. It's just like you just want it there.
Then again, what's that there though? A finger gap?
Oh, true. I suppose what it's going to get us anyway. We can just twist this a little bit more so the exhaust actually comes up between them. And 90, we might be able to just like slash cut it or something.
Parallel.
So what is this? You don't want it spitting backwards.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want a straight pipe spitting backwards. It needs to point at the floor. Right, so this is getting complex now, and it was always going to be when we were putting a turbo engine in the back of a car that it's meant to be in. And that has complexities because we're trying to keep it look like a show car and as minimal as possible and everything nice and neat like you would want a show car, but at the same time there's a lot going on. There's a lot of pipes, oil lines. The way things were run before just isn't as neat as we want it now. Plus we've got air suspension on it now, which takes up even more space, so there's more to go in less space, which makes things really awkward. So first thing yesterday, we were trying to figure out where to put the air filter, and I was thinking about bringing it from here, up here, through where the battery goes, and sticking it where the battery goes, and then relocating the battery, so that at least you don't see the air filter. That's not really gonna work, because by the time you get your pipe across here, you're gonna see it. Plus also, it's very close to that's not so much of a problem, it's close, it's always gonna be close to the exhaust. But it was gonna take out the bumper bracket, which isn't good because we need a bumper bracket. We could have modified that, but it would have been so thin. It just wasn't a good idea for safety and everything else. We could have modified that, but it just creates more work. So what we've done, I didn't want to do it, but it will look kind of cool still because it is a performance looking engine and it is going to be pretty quick. The air filter is going to come out here at 45 and the air filter is going to sit half in and half out the engine bay. Now this is a rough cut at the moment, that will need trimming, obviously prepping and painting after, but that's going to come out there and sit through there. So that's going to look pretty neat. Plus also, okay to buy the exhaust, but it's still a cold air intake as well, because half outside, half in. That's as good as that's going to get. The only other way we could have done it was a 45 and sit it directly in the engine bay, or a 90. But then you're looking at this massive air filter, so right in front of your engine. It just looked ugly as hell. So that's what we're going to do. I think that's the best compromise we could come up with. It'll look good when it's done. It's just I prefer to hide things if you can. Next we've got the exhaust. Now that's what was supplied with the engine, and it's just naff. Yeah, it's all right in a race car, not on this. But we want it to look good, so we've got lots of options here. We could either, you could have it like that, modify the bumper, stick it through there, but then we've got problems with the rear lights that are hidden in this bumper, plus obviously burning paint off, which would be another issue. We could bring it down there, 45 it, and have it underneath. That wouldn't look too bad, to be fair. It would look all right. What I'm thinking of at the moment is a 45, another 45 to bring it over here, and then a 45 to point it down to the ground, and then slash cut it, which would look pretty cool. Obviously the exhaust gas is going that way. If it does spit a flame and whatnot, it's not gonna burn any paint off. I think that's the best option at the moment. We don't want it coming this way because you can see it all underneath the back bumper. At the moment, we've got this engine bar, which you are gonna see. We're gonna fully prep that actually and paint that out, because you are gonna see that quite a lot, because it's one of the lowest things and it sits a lot lower than the bumper. Plus also then we've got oil line fittings, and these are difficult as well because you've got this, where this was originally. I think we're gonna have to change that because the thermostat it had before means that you need multiple lines, and it just gets really, really busy with multiple lines, multiple fittings, and it'll just look like a spaghetti junction there with big -8 oil lines. It's just gonna look messy, so we're gonna change that. So we got an in and an out, as simple as that, and that oil filter housing's gonna have to move over there. Then we've got the exhaust there, but next problem is I've got to figure out, is the exhaust gonna be too close to the oil lines? Yeah, possibly. The next problem is that we've got the oil pump here, and we've got to get pipes out of it, and then we've got the return up there, and we've got 90 degrees. I've just got these kicking on the bench. 90 degrees, just, it's not flowing very well, and the one up there is just pointing in the wrong direction. So I think I'm gonna have to change these out for 45 degrees, come this way, and I just did not want to run an oil line on that side because you're gonna completely see it. From the back of the car, although the van's gonna be really low, you're gonna see an oil line running across there, which will go to the oil filter, which I don't wanna do, so I'm gonna play about with a few options, try and figure out how we can get a pipe from there to there without being fitted to the face of that, because it's gonna look a mess. Or it won't look a mess, but it just won't look pretty, and you're gonna fully see it. So that's what I'm trying to figure out at the moment. So there's a lot going on with this, and it will look busy when it's done, but we want it to look as clean as possible, and that takes time. As you can see, there's still a load more work left to do on this. We're gonna get the engine running soon, finish all these little jobs off, but this thing is gonna kill it on the show scene next year, and I can't wait to see it out again. So don't forget, like, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video.